Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. I'm looking forward to doing an episode on the statement that Chris Watts wrote out that he released to, or he gave it to Coda when he went to the police station on the Tuesday, August the 14th. So I'm looking forward to doing that, but just for continuity's sake, I'm going to do a kind of a follow-up video to the one that I did previously on what if. Now, someone actually left a comment there just saying that's the stupidest question. It's the most pointless question you can ever ask. I beg to differ. I think that, what if is a question you need to be asking around the coronavirus right now. What if things are getting worse? What if the infections are more widespread than we realized? What if this? What if that? What if is a question of imagination. It is scenario building. It is considering possibilities. It's thinking about future potentialities, if I can put it that way. And, in the case of a criminal, if a criminal had thought, well, what if I could get caught? What if someone comes to the house tomorrow and tries to find Shan'ann? What if they notice she's not on social media? That kind of thinking could actually have prevented the crime. Thinking about the consequences, thinking about how things happen in the future, how things tend to play out in the future. And so I think what if is a very important question. In terms of what we're going to look at in this episode, the question is, what if Shan'ann had been the one having the affair? Now, I want to be quite clear in just saying I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that Shan'ann did have the affair, and there's no evidence of that, and I really personally don't believe that that's the case. And the reason I kind of want to ask this question is to look at our attitudes towards Nicole Kessinger. That's really the reason I'm doing it. Just something I want to bring to your attention. If you're interested in getting TCRS merch that can help protect you, I wouldn't advise it as the best protection. Those sort of surgical masks are much better, but it's better than nothing. And I sometimes use these buffs to hold those masks in place. Just actually even additional protection. Certainly using those buffs is better than not using anything at all. Plus it's got quite a cool message on it. Does that make sense? So if you want to get one, I will leave a link in the description if you want to order it from TSRS Merch, Cheekily Authentic Merchandise. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do like, share, leave a comment, and let's get started. So, although I've said what I've said and I firmly believe it, and I hope I don't get into trouble for saying this, but everything isn't in the phone data review. There are some personal messages that are redacted out of the phone data review that investigators felt isn't really necessary to have in there, right? So although there's a lot in the phone data review and it feels like it's everything, there's a heck of a lot that's just everyday chatter that the investigators felt isn't directly related to the circumstances of the case. And so what that means is we don't know everything. We don't know all of what was discussed, right? So I just wanted to bring that up. I don't think it really has a bearing on this because I don't think that Shan'ann was having an affair, but what I want to sort of do this thought experiment on is to sort of suggest, and the idea isn't to blame Shan'ann, the idea is to compare the third parties in this thought experiment. In other words, Nicole Kessinger and the question mark affair guy, right, which, as I say, I don't believe actually exists. But the point is, let's imagine that you had a scenario where the roles were basically just reversed. Shan'ann was cheating on Chris Watts. Let's suspend our disbelief for a moment and say, okay, the gender of the child is irrelevant, and whose child it is also irrelevant, right? Obviously, it would be very relevant to whoever was having an affair with Shan'ann, her being pregnant. So in other words, if another man was having an affair with Shan'ann and she fell pregnant with Chris Watts's baby, he wouldn't be very happy about that, would he? Of course, if he was the father of the child, he might be quite happy about it. He might feel, well, this is where things are going. But the part that I want to kind of emphasize here is, let us imagine, just for the sake of argument, that however things played out in this hypothetical scenario, this third party then murdered the family, right? So this third party murdered the Watts children, and let's even say Chris Watts, right? Because in a way, Chris Watts is a rival in this third party's mind. Now, the reason why I'm making the third party the murderer is just because it would make no sense for Shan'ann to commit a crime in this situation. She loved her children. Her children were close to her, and she wanted the baby as well. So it would just make no sense that, if you wanted to invert the whole scenario, it wouldn't make sense that she would kill her own family. And I don't think even if she was having an affair with another guy, I don't think she would want to kill her husband, right? There's more incentive, I think, for another man to want to do that if he was really in love with Shan'ann. Now, can you see how there's a different dynamic with a man committing these crimes tends to be kind of logical, and I'm not saying it is impossible. The possibility is obviously there that women can and do commit crimes, like Jodi Arias, right? But there is kind of a bias and a bias based on reality, that men tend to commit these crimes more than women. But what I want to do now is compare a man now who Shan'ann is having an affair with in this fictional scenario, actually killing the whole family, including Chris Watts, and the children. I don't know why he would kill the children, maybe because he wants to be with Shan'ann or whatever it is. Now compare that to Nicole Kessinger. Who are you more angry with? Who's more deserving of your disgust or whatever? And I've got a feeling that this is quite confusing to you, because you can't put a face to this mysterious unknown stranger. You probably don't really feel, if you're a woman, I don't think you feel the same way towards the whole thing as another woman, even if the other woman didn't even commit the crime. And this is the part that I want to bring your attention to. Now, what I think I'm going to do as an excerpt from the book that I've just written, Post-Truth, which is coming out on Tuesday, is put up an excerpt of a chapter that deals with this, our psychology, where Nicole Kessinger is the ultimate scapegoat. It's all her fault, blah, 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 even though Chris Watts committed the crime. I think there's this need to blame her for everything. And I don't think that need comes from the circumstances of the crime itself. I think it is projection. I think it is things that have happened perhaps in your life, things that have played out perhaps in your experience. And so you want to blame this third party, because how could the people at the center of it possibly be to blame? How could the people at the center of it, Chris Watts and Shan'ann, possibly be to blame for their marriage, for their children, for their debt, for what happened? How could they possibly be to blame? It's got to be somebody else. And so that is the psychology I want to kind of confront. Not to accuse you of anything, not to accuse anyone of anything, just to say, what do you think of this psychology? Does it make sense? Does that make sense, right? So the next episode I'll be doing on Chris Watts will be just looking at the statement that he filled in when he arrived at the Frederick Police Station early on Tuesday night, around about 7 o'clock. We're going to just examine that. That's something that I think hasn't really been looked at in enough detail, and it's probably time that we do that. Thank you for listening. If you haven't subscribed, please do like, share, leave a comment. You can join our wonderful community on Patreon at patreon.com/TCRS. There are lots of audiobooks up on there, and good conversations and good content. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.